Welcome into the DNVR Rockies podcast, brought to you by Strava Craft Coffee. Remember to use the promo code DNVR25. You'll save 55% off your entire purchase of that CBD-infused, deliciously rich, and potentially life-altering Strava Craft Coffee. I'm your host, Drew Creasman. I'm the managing editor of DNVR Rockies. With me, as always, is beat writer Makayla Perkins. And joining us for this conversation about two of the most interesting teams in all of Major League Baseball is writer for MLB.com, Stebe Gilbert. Thanks, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. Yeah, I might need some of that to keep me awake during some of these games. It's good that that's a sponsor. I like that.
It helps, especially
coffee
when
and baseball.
Right?
Yes. Oh, coffee and baseball. It doesn't get better than that. My two favorite things.
Absolutely. Especially for the day games after the night games, the coffee comes in really handy.
Yeah, it's absolute necessity for those. So we do want to talk a little bit about where these two teams are at currently as they play a weekend series here at Coors Field. But let's back up a minute and take a wider angle lens at two teams that are kind of in a post-era, right? A couple of superstar players have moved on for the Diamondbacks. It's Paul Goldschmidt, Zach Greinke. For the Rockies, it's Nolan Arenado, and before that, DJ LeMahieu. Out here, there's a real sense that the Rockies haven't committed to a rebuild one way or the other. They don't know what they're going to do with Trevor Story. There's no real direction. No one knows what they're planning on doing. Where do the Diamondbacks fall on that scale in your sense, and where the fans are at in terms of hopeful for the future or just grinding through like the rest of us at losing baseball games every day?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that one of the things for the Diamondbacks is that they do have a highly rated farm system, and they do have some really highly touted prospects. Now, we talk about injuries, and of course, their number one prospect, Corbin Carroll, hit a homer, I think his second or third night of the minor league season, and dislocated his shoulder in the process and is out for the rest of the year. But aside from that, that injuries seem to go through the whole organization. They have a pretty good farm system. So I think that they do feel like there is reason for optimism in the very near future. Mike Hazen, their general manager, has never been a big fan of a complete teardown. He just doesn't like that notion. Would like to avoid that if at all possible. So they've kind of, sold off certain pieces at times. Paul Goldschmidt a year before free agency, Zach Greinke to free up some money. But in the process, they got guys that they thought were, major league ready or close to it, whether that's a Carson Kelly, a Luke Weaver, and Josh Rojas, some of the guys they got back for Greinke. So they are not really committed to a full rebuild, so to speak. They still believe they can be competitive, but they do have some really good kids down on the farm that they feel like are coming sooner rather than later. And as we found out this year, much sooner rather than later.
Always tough when they're forced into it, right? We know how that goes. Oh no, did Makayla freeze again? Oh,
I'm here.
Yeah.
Really tough. We were talking about this.
Oh, go ahead, Makayla. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we were talking about this a little bit before the podcast, but I think there's 11 players on the injured list right now for the Diamondbacks. I mean, what is going on down there? Is everyone okay?
I'll tell you what, if I had an answer to that, I would be able to retire. I'm sure they'd pay me enough to retire if I could tell them how to avoid all these injuries. But it's been crazy. It's been, it seems like every day the first thing Torey Lovullo does when he sits down, and this is never a good sign for his pre-game media session, is run down a list of rehab guys and who's, making progress and where they're at. And there's a lot of injuries around baseball. It just seems like there are a few teams that have been hit particularly hard, and the Diamondbacks are one of them. I mean, they've lost really key players for long periods of time, whether it's Ketel Marte, Cole Calhoun, Christian Walker, Carson Kelly was carrying the offense for a while. Now he's hurt. So it's been, when I even touched on the fact that a bunch of their starting pitchers are gone too. So it's been a year where I think Torey gets nervous every time a trainer stops by his office to give him any update.
Oh, you hate to see it. That's tough.
Yeah, no one, you never root for injuries. It's even when, I saw some people in the Rockies community being like, when Dustin May went down, being like, thank God we're not going to have to face that guy. I was like, I want to watch that guy pitch. Man, it's good for the game. Come on, let's see these young, good players play. There's nothing good about injuries for anybody. You want to beat the best at their best. Let's get them when they're without their guy stuff. I don't like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's what fans want to see. They want to see some of these exciting young players, especially. And then Mike Trout goes down with an injury, and I think that the more these star players that are down, the tougher it is for baseball in terms of marketing itself to the fans. So I think all of baseball. It's a great point that you make. That I think all of baseball would be better served with that kind of attitude. Like, how do we keep these guys healthy? How do we keep them on the field? Because that's what fans want to. They want to see. They want to see these guys.
So, Steve, a lot of times on these series preview shows, what we would do now is take a look at the probable pitchers and sort of kind of predict how the series is going to go. We got Seth Frankoff.
Yeah, that's right. Seth Frankoff tonight. And then and then TBA, who's been a lot of games for the Diamondbacks this year. TBA has made almost a record number of starts so far for the Diamondbacks. Yeah, they've been, first off, Seth Frankoff is a guy who went over to Korea and kind of, reinvented himself over there. A lot like Merrill Kelly did for the Diamondbacks. He's been a success story for them. Now, Seth Frankoff hasn't, had the kind of experience that Merrill Kelly's had. He's only started one game for them. But they liked what they saw in that first start from him. And so they're going to give him another chance. It's not always the easiest places in the world to pitch, Coors Field. So we'll see how he handles that. But then, again, TBA the next 2 days, and they just came off a Dodgers series, a 4-game series with the Dodgers, where it was Madison Bumgarner, TBA, and then 2 of those TBAs, the middle 2 games, we didn't know about until the afternoon of that day who was going to pitch at night. So that's been a new experience for me too. Once in a while that happens, but not like consecutive days where you're going, who's pitching tomorrow? Post game, you say, who's pitching tomorrow? And the manager goes, yeah, we haven't gotten that far yet. We still have discussions that we have to have. So it has been an interesting year. And so maybe we'll get some more clarification tonight as to who's pitching in those last 2 games.
It appears, from what I could tell, that they have Madison Bumgarner going game 2, supposedly, and then Corbin Martin going game 3. So that's what it looks like they're thinking is going to happen, but it's obviously not going to be official. What are your thoughts on this series? Do you think it'll be a competitive series? Do you think the Diamondbacks are going to be able to get a couple wins here? What do you think is going to happen?
I think it's always competitive, and it's so hard to predict when you go to Coors Field. I know that's a cliche, but you guys see it far more than I do, but I feel like I watch 100 games a year at Coors Field just because every game feels so long and you just never know. And it's a battle. It's not so much just that the ball flies. It's just there's just things happen at Coors Field, especially between these 2 teams, that just make it kind of always an interesting. And sometimes it feels like it's who's going to be the last team standing at the end of 9 innings when these 2 teams meet, especially at Coors. So I think the Diamondbacks certainly are not taking anybody for granted right now the way they're playing. So they would be thrilled to win a couple games, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
go
ahead, Matt.
I was just going to say, despite all the injuries, it seems like they've been able to kind of keep morale up in the clubhouse. The post-game dance that they do when they win games, that is spearheaded by Eduardo and David Peralta, seems like a lot of fun. Whenever those videos come across my Twitter timeline, I always watch. And to me, it seems like they've been able to kind of keep club morale high despite everything that they've been going through. Have you gotten any sense that they're keeping their mindset in a positive way despite the injuries so far this season?
I think one of the hardest things about covering a team now during COVID, when you can't go in the clubhouse, is that it's so hard to get that real feel for how the room is. It seems to be fine, but not being in there, it's hard to know for sure. I think that they went on that road trip, a 3-city road trip. It was Washington, Cincinnati, and Atlanta, and played extremely well, and that really kind of propelled them. I think they finished 7-3 on that trip, and they came home and everyone was happy, and that's when the dancing had started. Really was during that trip. Came home, had a decent homestand, and then went 0-6 on a road trip. Struggled on a homestand. Now they just got swept by the Dodgers, so there hasn't been much dancing. I think about twice in the last 10 games they've danced, but it is something to see. And that was funny. We talked about doing a story on it at MLB.com, and we're like, hey, this is really interesting because, like Makayla said, people respond when they see it on social media because they're just having so much fun with it. And so I said, okay, that'd be a good story. I'll look into that. And that was just before they left on that 0-6 road trip. So haven't made much progress on that story yet, but maybe in the future we'll be able to have some more info on that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know that all too well. I need Ryan McMahon to heat up with the bat a little bit so I can publish something on you, buddy. I got it ready to go, man. I just right in the middle of the cold stretch is not the best time. But yeah, so I don't know if you've noticed that the Colorado Rockies are two completely different teams on the road and at home. I think this is something that's actually gathered some national attention as well, mostly because of how extraordinarily dreadful they are on the road. But then when you look at it and they're sitting at, I think they're still plus 500 at home, even though that Red Series got all messed up. And so is there any sense of like understanding of like, well, yeah, this is a bad team, but not necessarily wins that should be had when you're going into Coors Field aside, like you said, wonkiness aside, that maybe these guys are a slightly more capable bunch. Because, if you get them in your spot, you better beat them, right? If they come to your house, you better beat the Colorado Rockies.
Yeah, but the Diamondbacks can't take anybody lightly right now. And I think we saw earlier this year where they came into Coors Field, and I think they lost that series, early in the season. So I don't think they're going to Coors Field thinking, okay, we're going to get healthy now against the Rockies. I think they're thinking we're desperate to win ourselves, and this is going to be two teams who are desperate for wins. I mean, they want to win. It's been a tough stretch for both franchises.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about the silver lining of, a high draft pick. Again, you've talked about the GM not really being in favor of rebuilds. Dick Monfort has been famously or infamously, depending on where you stand, against hard rebuilds and tearing down to start over again. But is there any kind of sense that, hey, with a strong farm system, especially with the injuries, and you can kind of point and throw up your hands and go, you know what, last season, it was maybe too early for these guys anyway. Why not just kind of go the other way, lose as many games as possible, get a high draft pick, and then take another run at this thing in 2022?
I think if they get to the trade deadline and they're where they're at now, I think that they might try to move some guys that are getting closer to free agency, whether that is Eduardo Escobar or David Peralta or Calhoun or some of the veterans that they have that might bring in some return. I think you could see that happen.
Peralta would be a great get for a contender.
Yeah,
that guy fit in on any team anywhere.
Energy. He plays with a lot of energy, and he was fun the other night. They got beat pretty good the other night at home, but he got the pitch, and he pitched the ninth inning. And what was great about that is that he came up in the Cardinals system years and years ago as a pitcher, and then blew out his arm, and went back home and quit baseball, and then reinvented himself as an outfielder and came back through independent ball, working at McDonald's to kind of pay the bills and supplement things while he was playing outfield and independent ball. And so this was a big moment for him, because he said, I finally got to hear now pitching David Peralta in a major league stadium, blowout 17-2 or whatever it was in the ninth inning. But he got that experience. So what I'm trying to say is he's a good clubhouse guy. I think he's a good guy to have around. Eduardo Escobar is a good get in terms of the energy that he would bring. Cole Calhoun's obviously a good leader in the clubhouse. So yeah, they do have some valuable pieces.
I think David Peralta's story to the major leagues is probably one of my favorite stories in all of baseball. But speaking of blowouts and position players pitching, what is your take on Mr. Tony La Russa's comments the other day? I'm so interested to know what your stance is on this.
I find this whole Tony La Russa as manager thing just fascinating. When they named him, I turned to Nick Picoro, who is writes for the Arizona Republic, covering the Diamondbacks, and I said, "Oh man, this is just going to be nonstop this year of just things to talk about." And God bless Tony, he has not let us down.
You were right.
I think if a guy swings 3-0 when he was given the take sign, that kind of gets like lost in the shuffle. Now, that I don't agree with. If you get a sign to take, you should take. That aside, the unwritten rule about it's whatever the score is, and it's 3-0, and you're not supposed to swing, and it's a position. I mean, that to me, it just gets a little too carried away, and so I don't buy into that. I think it's probably bad if you ignore a sign to take. If you're giving a take sign, we appreciate when guys actually follow signs, but for Tony to make that kind of deal about it is just, I don't think you'd find another manager in baseball that would do it. And I think that's what's so fascinating about having him in Chicago, is that who else calls out their own player who hit a home run, and then the next night when the Twins throw behind him, he defends the Twins. This is, if you're a writer covering the White Sox, it's something every day.
This team had the manager of the year last year.
Yes.
The White Sox had the American League manager of the year last year, and they decided, no, you know what we need is this.
It's a fascinating hire. It's just, AJ Hinch was out there. There was a lot of talk about, wow, AJ Hinch would be a perfect fit with this, young team, and no, it's Tony La Russa. So that's, That's my thoughts on that. I understand being upset if a guy, ignores a sign, but the unwritten rule about 3-0, I think that gets a little over the top.
I was so shocked by that hire, because you have one of the youngest teams in baseball that has the most talented young core. You got Tim Anderson down there, all these great young guys, and then you have a manager who's in his 70s, who's super old school, hardcore, just like an old school baseball guy. And I'm just like, what? How did that? Where? What was the decision process?
And I'm sure that and Tony has a ton of baseball knowledge and experience, and it just seemed like something that would be an interesting fit and lead to a bunch of stories during the year. And so far, we've had a few.
Yeah. All right, Steve. Before we let you go, last thing, I need you to finish the David Peralta story. How did he do on the hill? What was the line, approximately?
The line was a little ugly. He gave up a home run. But he promised Torrey, he's been begging Torrey to pitch for like 3 years now. And Torrey's big fear was, if you put a guy who has a pitching background on the mound, they're going to try to overthrow, they're going to throw breaking balls, and all they need is for David Peralta, right, with all the injuries they have, to hurt himself. Pitching. So he promised Torrey that he would not throw hard and he would not throw any breaking balls. So he was throwing about 50 miles an hour. So that didn't necessarily go well. He did strike out one batter, and Escobar was over there in the dugout signaling that they wanted the baseball. So he's got he said that is going the night before he picked up his 800th career hit. So that baseball is going next to a strikeout baseball on his ankle. So
that's fantastic. And as long as
it was a light moment in an otherwise terrible night for the Diamondbacks, and that sometimes is the value, I guess, of having a position player pitch, is it kind of doesn't leave as bad a taste in your mouth when the night is over.
Right. Rockies had one of those with Josh Fuentes pitching, and you also reminded me that as long as he didn't give up a home run to the pitcher, because that's what Daniel Descalso did when he pitched against the Rockies at Coors Field. He gave up a home run to German Marquez. And so it's like, hey, look, position player give up a home run, whatever. But when you give up a home run to the opposing pitcher, you're going to hear about it.
I remember that Descalso, and what was great about that game is that there was actually, balls put in play when Descalso was on the mound. And I think that's something that you kind of enjoy on this end. You're used to seeing strikeout, whatever, you walk, and then, wow, balls put in play, guys running around the bases. This is kind of fun to watch.
Yeah. All right. Steve, well, we appreciate you taking the time to preview this series, I guess, a little bit, guess at what's going to happen. Let us know what's going on with the Diamondbacks these days. We'll have to catch up with you in the future and see how your rebuild is going.
It's always my pleasure. I'd love to talk with you guys.
Keep repping the Sun Devils in the press box. Forks up forever, baby.
These
forks up. You better believe it.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.
You guys. Take care.
All right. Well, that was a whole lot of fun. We will toast our Breck Brews and our Breck Celsius. A little early in the day for me, so I'm still on the Strava Craft coffee, but we will toast them to Steve Gilbert. Make sure you're checking out all his stuff at MLB.com, checking out everything that you need to know about the Diamondbacks, following him on Twitter. I think it's at Steve Gilbert MLB. So, yeah, great guy, fun follow. a lot of good baseball stories, knows his stuff. I really appreciate him taking the time today. And it's a good time since we've got a little bit. We wanted to do that without interrupting him since he had a little bit of time with us today. Let you know about some of our friends, beginning, of course, with Manscaped. Look, fellas, 2021, you got to get Manscaped. There's no more excuses. 4 or 5 years ago, I get it. It was some trendy new thing that you were like, I don't know, is that really something I need to bother with? It's standard now. It's requirement at this point. You've got to get Manscaped. You don't want to be the last guy out there not doing it. Plus, it makes you feel better, and it makes anyone who's making you feel better, feel smoother, feel cleaner, smell better by getting Manscaped. And we have got, wait, is this one live? I got to make sure this one's live. Yeah, we've got the Lawnmower 4.0 out there. Absolutely huge news. There's been an upgrade. The 4.0 trimmer now available for purchase in USA and Canada. So you get, and you do still get 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com when you use promo code DNVR. You got to get it done, fellas. It's a must requirement. Again, that's DNVR at manscaped.com. You get 20% off plus free shipping on all of their fantastic products. Also, while we're here, got to make sure to help our friends at Hassel Cattle Company. I've got my Hassel Cattle Company beef situation figured out. They just delivered the $200. Oh, I had to go over because you use promo code DNVR10, you get 10% off. And then it still has to be over $200. You get the free shipping on that Wagyu beef. It's absolutely delicious. Got a ton of ground beef, ground chuck, the bacon, the award-winning hamburgers, steaks. Cooked up some sausage last night, a little bit of spicy sausage and pasta sauce, some spaghetti stuff. It's absolutely delicious. Really, really good stuff. Wagyu beef, no hormones, antibiotics, any of that garbage in the animal, which means that it doesn't get into your body, which means it's also better for them, better for the environment, better for your wallet. A lot of times their prices are better than what you're going to find down at the grocery store for a much tastier product, for a much better product. So just check them out today at Hassel Cattle Company. It's HASSELL cattlecompany.com. Makayla, Steve was fun.
So fun. I love that guy. We got a really fun friendship going on when I worked for the Diamondbacks. It was so great seeing him in the press box and getting to know him and all the beat writers that work with the Diamondbacks. So I miss seeing him. It was the first time that we've seen him since I've seen him since I left Arizona. So it's cool to see my old friend again.
It's funny, he's one of those people I've had several very short conversations with because, as you said, the Rockies and Diamondbacks play each other a lot. So we see each other in various press boxes, and Arizona is also one of the easiest places to travel to. So in the early days when he whispers DNVR back when, actually I should say when BSN didn't have, a whole lot of money to go traveling and stuff, Arizona was one of the easiest places to get to. So I covered several games down there at Chase. So I'd see him, in and around, and we were introduced early on, and you say hi and you get into a couple little conversations, but everyone's also at work. You know how those quick conversations go.
Yeah.
Covering the baseball game or getting your interview with the ball player, the manager, whoever. So that's by far the longest conversation we've ever had. But always, obviously, very pleasant guy, one of those people. Not everyone's like that.
No.
Not everyone walks into the press box with positive energy and shaking people's hands back when that was allowed and, smiling, hey, how are you? What's going on? Very inviting. So it was fun to actually talk some baseball with him.
He's a brilliant, brilliant baseball mind. But aside from being a brilliant writer and a brilliant baseball mind, he's just a good human being. It's very intimidating walking into a Major League Baseball press box in a Major League Baseball locker room, especially as a female. And so Steve, kind of recognized that whenever I was there and always made an effort to, talk to me, make me feel comfortable. And he will be a forever friend of mine. And I'm so happy he could join us, even though our teams are struggling right now.
But you put a big old smile on your face. And your smile is brought to you by our friends at Green Mountain Dental. Make sure you head over to Green Mountain Dental Group, just 15 minutes outside of downtown Denver there in Lakewood. When you schedule a cleaning, x-ray, and exam today, they'll hook you up with a free Sonic Hair toothbrush. They'll treat you like family. They know their sports. They love taking care of the DNVR family. They've been a part of our family for a very long time. So if you need any dentistry work done, You got to support them. They support us, which also supports you. It ends up being this big, happy family of everyone supporting each other. So go on down to our friends at Green Mountain Dental Group today. All right, Mac, as you said, a couple of teams not playing good, though. Rockies playing better at home for sure. We talked a little bit about the Diamondbacks pitching situation. The Rockies will send Germán Marquez, Antonio Senzatella, and John Gray to the Hill. An opportunity to take advantage of a hobbled, not well-performing Diamondbacks team. Not that the Rockies were awesome on that road in the last couple of games, but what do we think?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think this is a winnable series. You know, the poor Diamondbacks, they are so banged up. They're missing so many of their like really key players that they rely on to, you know, be a functioning team. So I think, you know, and the Rockies are sending out the top of their rotation, you know, their 1, 2, 3 guys. And, you know, Seth Frankoff, who's going today for the Diamondbacks, he has made 1 appearance so far this season. He went 4 2/3 innings and gave up 2 runs. So not horrible. He didn't make it very far into the game. I'm not sure, you know, if we're going to be seeing a similar performance today at Coors Field. You know, you know how pitchers are when they go to a new ballpark for the first time, especially a ballpark like Coors Field. The balls just don't move the same way that they normally do or that you're used to. So Seth Frankoff, Germán Marquez, I feel pretty comfortable taking Germán Marquez at home. Like you said, the Rockies are much better at home than they are on the road. And I think this is the time for the Rockies to take advantage of, you know, a banged up and bruised Diamondbacks roster. And I would hope that they would be able to sweep the series. You know, if you start looking at game 2, Madison Bumgarner, versus Antonio Senzatella, that's where I kind of would see, you know, the Diamondbacks being able to maybe take one of these 3 games from the Rockies. Obviously, Madison Bumgarner is a great pitcher, not as great as he used to be, getting a little up there in age and declining, but
happens
still,
to the best of us.
Right. Happens to the best of us. You know, still doing great overall, though. So I guess if I would have to give a game to the Diamondbacks, it would be game 2. Corbin Martin. Yeah. So
is a person.
Yep, he sure is. So yeah, I think they could easily sweep the series. I hope they do. I don't think that's asking for too much to expect a sweep. But if they're gonna drop a game, it would probably be game 2.
So, yeah, just looking at tonight, the Rockies are plus 118 with Marquez on the hill. The over-under for runs in the game is 11.5, so buckle up. You know, and even, like, we've even seen it, right? Even if Marquez goes 7 innings and gives up 1 run, the Rockies bullpen is fully capable of giving up 7 runs in those last 2 innings. And so, you know, we'll see.
Absolutely.
Let's see. So I know we're staying away from Marquez strikeouts. Actually, they may not be giving us Marquez strikeouts anymore. Because he's been so up and down. DraftKings may just be like, you know what? Maybe not. Anyone you like to hit a home run? CJ Cron came back hot. He's actually the lowest bang for your buck. So the best odds to hit a home run, your worst odds to make money at plus 290. CJ Cron to kind of stay hot. Ryan McMahon at plus 320. Charlie Blackmon may be due at plus 430. Dom Nunez may also be due at plus 460. And Trevor Story may also be due at plus 320.
Yeah, I would be honestly comfortable taking anybody in our lineup to get a home run. I mean, I feel like Seth Frankoff is about to get lit up. I think this is the perfect series for the Rockies bats to finally wake up again, for anyone that's in a hitting slump to kind of break out of that slump. You know, I think especially like these veteran guys who, like Charlie Blackmon and Trevor Story, I mean, I think they're going to be able to figure out Seth Frankoff pretty easily and early on in the game. By their second at-bat, they should be able to.
You would hope.
I could be wrong. Maybe Seth Frankoff is just like an ace in disguise, and he's going to go out there and shock the world. But I really think that, you know, tonight I would take the over on 11 runs. But you said the run line was at 11?
11.5, yeah. So you need 12 between the two teams, but still,
I would take that over, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know. Am I crazy? Like, I just have a feeling that this is just going to be such a high scoring series.
No, I think you're right again, because the Rockies bullpen has been so bad, and Marquez is yet to be dominant. Senzatella's flirted with dominance once or twice, but have been very beatable the rest of the time. John Gray has been very, very good, but really hasn't been dominant. It's been consistently 6 innings, 1 or 2 runs every time out, where that's 3 innings that this Rockies bullpen has to pitch. And who are you handing the baseball to out of the Colorado Rockies bullpen right now?
Oh God.
Look, man, we get they're trying. It's not their fault, but
Yeah. I mean, oh God, it's so hard to think of who I trust with the baseball. I mean, even Sheffield had a really bad game this past series that they played, and he was my guy.
Yeah, Sheffield and Stevenson had been your guys. They'd been solid for most of the year, and then the last week and a half or so, they've both got blown up, especially since that Stevenson grand slam, when he inherited the John Gray bases loaded situation. He's kind of been eating it since then. Michael Givens had been easily statistically the Rockies' best reliever by a comfortable margin, but then he came out and walked a bunch of dudes and threw 2 wild pitches that allowed runs. No, he just threw the 1 wild pitch. The other one was Stevenson or Sheffield or somebody, but it just, he blew that save, finally given the save opportunity. He was like, okay, you're the guy doing it. Daniel Bard's been struggling enough. Givens had to be handed the closer job, and his first opportunity to do it, he just walked the bases loaded and threw a ball in the dirt. And, it's just like, what are we like? There's nobody to hand the baseball to. So I
mean, I don't even think you give Daniel Bard the baseball if it's a save situation. That's how scared I am.
Probably go with Givens, who, again, the last time got a save opportunity at Coors Field, gave it away entirely. Not on guys hitting balls in the gap and over the wall he couldn't throw a strike, and non-competitive pitches too, nowhere near the strike zone. So I don't know, man. Yeah, real Corsi cat. love it. Agree. Lawrence has nasty stuff, but the command isn't there. He's all over the place. He needs more seasoning, and you're I'd like to see more of him, but you're not trusting him to close ball games for wins. If that's what you want right now, is wins. And it is, again, if you're aiming for that number 1 overall draft pick, a terrible bullpen is kind of a blessing in disguise. And you can go out there, starting pitcher can have a nice game, your offense can put up some decent runs, and then you can still lose because guys who won't be on the team a couple of years from now are blowing it. But it sucks to watch.
Sucks to watch. I like Brendan's comment. If we get swept this year, we can 100% call it quits. I mean, just throw in the towel at that point. Like, if the battered and bruised Diamondbacks, with missing 11 of their key players, can sweep the series from us, I don't know, Drew. We might need to reevaluate the not losing 100 games this season.
I may have to at that point. But another thing that I think gets left out of that I didn't make, I should say that I'm leaving out of that conversation. I was kind of looking around the standings the other day. It's just how many terrible teams there are in baseball. You would think, oh man, the Rockies have been absolutely exhaustingly awful out there at times. They must be the worst team in baseball, but they're not.
They're not.
The Minnesota Twins have been worse, and there are like 6 other teams that are right in the neighborhood, including the Diamondbacks, the Orioles, the Pirates.
Yeah, the Twins, the Rangers, the Angels still only have 19 wins.
Yeah.
The Tigers have only won 17.
Yeah.
Nationals 17, Pirates, Rockies. Right. Yeah, I mean, it's the discrepancy between like the bottom teams in Major League Baseball and the top teams in Major League Baseball is so vast right now.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it is brutal. It's the economics of it, and then there's some teams that are trying to lose, right, and that being a viable strategy. But it's part of the reason why it can also be harder and harder to lose 100 games, because you're going to have series like this one that pop up on your schedule and you go, oh, the Diamondbacks are coming into town. They're also bad. And like, all right, let's see. Because, you can sit there and go, well, the Rockies bullpen is like, well, what, the Diamondbacks bullpen isn't especially awesome either. And they're having to deal with Coors Field as outsiders. So it's just like, I think it's going to be a messy set. Even if the Rockies get good starting pitching, we could see mirror image games. Every single game of the Rockies starter gives them a quality outing, but we're still looking at 13-9, 14-9 ball games each time because the bullpens are so bad. And
yeah, I mean, do you think that this is kind of like a gut check series? Like if they do really bad in the series and the Diamondbacks manage to like sweep them or even take 2 of 3, like at that point, do you think that people in the front office are just going to be like, all right, we got to really consider what we're going to be doing before this trade deadline because we just got swept by a team that has basically missing a ton of their key players.
Right.
I mean, you would think that would have to happen, right? Like maybe it's still too early for those conversations to be taking place, but
yeah, you know, I guess I sort of get the sense that they're gonna kind of do what they're gonna do. Like I think they're gearing up for, and they would never publicly call it this. And this is part of my frustration with this conversation is there's a huge gap between what the team is saying and what the team is doing. And it's also, I've got to say, it's ironic to me that people will like dismiss absolutely everything this team, especially Dick Monfort, says until he says something that they can catch him on them. They'll be like, oh, he definitely 100% believes that. Like he definitely believes the team is going to be competitive this year. Like, no, that's just ownership speak. Every owner came out. The owner for the Reds and the Rangers and the Orioles and the Diamondbacks all came out and said, we're going to be competitive this year. And they're not, you know, and so I do think there's a gap between that. I think the Rockies are rebuilding one way or another. I do think a lot of it depends on the Trevor Story questions we've, of course, talked about. And I think they believe they've got an opportunity to keep him and rebuild around him, which changes things, you know, and you can go in the offseason and spend some money. Maybe you trade a few of these veterans to rebuild your farm system, CJ Cron, Michael Givens, maybe a Charlie Blackmon if you can. That's an interesting question. Maybe offloading a John Gray or German Marquez, though that gets more complicated. But I don't think, you know, I think they'll trade Trevor Story if they can't sign him, and they won't if they believe they can, regardless of how good or bad they are. And that's really the only thing that would signal like a full-on sell and rebuild, right, is a trade of Trevor Story. Because like trading John Gray and German Marquez, I just don't think that it's going to get you the full return. You know, the totally restocks your farm system, and it sort of sets you back too, because now all you're trying to do is recreate John Gray and German Marquez a couple of years down the line. Where a trade of Trevor Story sets you on an actual rebuild. But he's also young enough that he could stay through a quicker rebuild. So it's like, yeah, if he doesn't want to stay, you got to trade him. But I really do think that they'll, like, no matter how bad they are, I don't think they'll go full on, like, we're going to sell everybody off mode, because they just don't really do that. For better or for worse. Patrick would say for worse. But, you know, and yeah, the Coursey Cat making more great points that you've also got the All-Star game in Denver, and, you know, you trade him right before the All-Star game, and how much extra terrible press comes from having announced within a couple of months that you traded Nolan Arenado and Trevor Story. Does
my gosh,
get that he's going to be a free agent and it might make sense, or have you just pissed everybody off? So I think they're just going to run this thing out kind of no matter what, Mac, and just play with the guys they've got and really start their rebuild or whatever they're going to do with the new GM and the new. And I actually don't disagree with that either. There's a part of me that says, you know, let whoever you're going to bring in to be the next GM start making moves. It sucks with the Trevor Story situation because you might lose him for nothing. You get a draft pick.
Yeah.
But everything else, like, let the next GM decide if German Marquez is a key piece of a trade that helps you restart your farm system, or whether or not he's a key piece of your next competitive team. Because he can be either. He's young enough. He can be either of those things. So it just sucks in the meantime, because you just have to sit there and watch them roll out this team and not say anything publicly about direction, right? People just want to know What are they doing? But that's my take on what I think they're doing.
I need some time to like emotionally prepare myself, like just give me like a little bit of a hit, like a heads up about what's going to happen so I can like digest and like be prepared for when it happens. Yeah. I was literally like, when they traded Nolan, I was out with my friends at a bar. Like I was like 2 drinks in, like, and then I got the notification on my phone that he got traded. I was like,
what? Yeah.
So I just need a little bit of a heads up. That would be great. Please, Dick Monfort, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, a little heads up. Unfortunately, yeah, and maybe again that'll be something that the next GM can be better about, is communicating with the fans via the media and just letting people know. But I think it's kind of fair for everybody. Like, and if I'm Trevor Story, who again I don't think is chomping to get out of town, I still do want to know who the next GM is going to be.
I know,
and the answer to your questions about what is the plan.
Yeah.
What are we doing? When do we expect to be competitive again? Because maybe if I'm Story, I go, I can do one more year in 2022 of maybe not being great. If you guys, if we do whatever, if I'm sure we're rebuilding the farm system, get an analytics team, if it, whatever, and then quick rebuild, we turn around, we think we're going to be good in 23. It all changes the conversation. So it'll be a fascinating one. But until they name that next GM, it's hard for me to want them to declare a plan too hard one way or the other, because whatever the plan is going to be, it should be who the plan of the person who's coming in, right? That person should be bringing their plan here, hopefully with Coors Field and all the stuff we've talked about in mind. So you kind of want to give them the freedom to do whatever they want, whether that's trying to re-sign Trevor Story or letting him walk for the draft pick, these other guys. So I just wish they could do it right now, but the middle of the season is a hard time to go and get, especially because the best person to be GM might currently be working for one of the other teams in baseball. And you can't do that right now. It's like Thad Levine would be great, but got a job. The Twins are terrible. Hopefully they fire him. Hopefully they're so bad they fire him. Then the Rockies can hire him mid-season. I don't know. It's brutal, man. We just got to sit here and watch them. What was the directionless? Yeah, kind of wade in the water, just kind of.
Yeah, and when Steve was talking about the state of the two teams, like I know that you're not a farm system ranker believer, but it just kind of like put another thing in just to perspective. Like, the Diamondbacks, at least they have something to look forward to. Like, with us, it's like, the Rockies high A team, their triple A team, and their double A, or like 3 of their 4 teams are the worst in their respective leagues. So it's just like,
matter at all. I mean, that's one of those things that really
right. But I'm trying to say, like, the state of the two teams, like it sucks. Like, just like what you're saying, like sitting here waiting in the water, like trying to figure out like what the direction this team is going to go. But it would make it like a little bit more bearable if we just had like something to look forward to. But like, in my opinion, and I know you disagree with me, I just don't think we have those pieces to look forward to like the Diamondbacks do. So it just kind of was like another like, moment.
Well, no, and to be clear on that, like the Rockies farm system is not good. I quibble with the details. It's kind of like when somebody says, X team has the best defense in the NFL, and they're measuring it based on like yards given up or something like that. It's just too definitive of a statement for me when people go, the Rockies have the worst farm system in baseball. It's like there are like 250 human beings in a farm system, and you've accurately measured every single one of them and lined them up in a completely objective way. And those guys say they're 29th, but these guys say they're 26th. And that guy actually says they're 24th after the Nolan Arenado trade. And back when they said they were 15th, they really should have been ranked 10th. And so it's more about those like quibbles and finer details. Like they're not way off. The Rockies farm system is bad and needs to be made better. But I also think it can be a much quicker turnaround than people realize. The Rockies farm system was rated one of the worst in baseball from like 2010 to 2013. And then they hit on a couple of drafts, made a couple of nice trades, a couple of nice pickups in the international market. And all of a sudden they had a farm system that was full of all the guys who basically make up the team now.
Yeah.
And, they all turned into pretty good ball players. And it wasn't because they committed to some grand rebuild or hit on all these big trades or whatever. They just drafted and developed well for a few years. And, they've missed on some draft and develop over the last couple of years. But I think you can turn that around a little bit quicker. And it would help to make 1 or 2 good trades to rebuild the farm system as well. Oddly enough, and we'll have to get Patrick in on this too. Almost all the guys from the Nolan Arenado trade are performing very well in the minor leagues right now. And we've quibbled and quabbled over the Austin Gomber ERA versus progressive and regressive linear progression. But yeah,
I think Austin's done a great job so far this season.
Yeah.
I think he has performed higher than what I was expecting him to perform, especially for the type of pitcher that he was told he was, or that he was projected to be, and how he's adjusted to pitching at Coors Field. I like the guy. I'm high on him. I think he's super talented, and I think he has all the tools necessary to develop into a lights out pitcher. And I don't know why people are. I understand the negative connotation because of who he's attached to, but I think he's going to be so good if he can, just keep working on that command and making sure that curveball moves in the right direction and doesn't hang over the plate. I think he's going to be incredible, and I'm so happy that we got him.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like he's going to be around for quite a while at a very team-friendly contract. So it's going to be interesting to see what part of the future he plays. And from the Colorado Virtual Sports Network, that's pretty cool. Excited to see Toglia, special talent there. Yeah, he's been hitting nothing but dinger dongers all year. Like he's been fantastic. Not great with the consistency yet, but that power.
Did you say dinger dongers?
Dinger dongers. Again, 20% off at manscaped.com plus free shipping. Use promo code DNVR.
Well, and also too, Kyle Freeland's coming back. His rehab assignment in Albuquerque was great. Brendan Rodgers is right behind him. We've got some new faces, well, not new faces, but like new to the season faces, that are joining the team that might provide that extra little boost that they need to kind of turn things in a more positive direction. But Kyle Freeland's coming back.
Tigers fan hanging out, just couldn't get enough pain, I guess, with your team, had to come and
I love the Tigers because they got my guy Spencer Torkelson. Go Tigers. Torque bombs. Love the Tigers. What's up?
Bring in the torque. And that really, the other part of my contention about the farm system ranking is there's also a technicality to it that I thought was leaving out, as I ended up dubbing them, the Lost Boys. And you just mentioned one of them. What we're really talking about here is not how do you rank the guys who are technically in the farm system, or how do you do what we're really talking about is young talent that can be a part of the future, right? The Rockies present sucks. So who's going to be around in the future, right? Yeah. And so you look at a guy like Brendan Rodgers, Colton Welker, Ryan Rollison, or even guys who are a little bit older like Ryan McMahon,
Josh
Fuentes, doing certain things. Maybe Connor Joe is working into that mix.
Connor Joe.
And again, not a young player. Connor Joe's not 21-year-old prospect.
Yeah.
But these guys who don't have a lot of experience in the big leagues, but who could very well be cogs in your machine moving forward. And so I think that's, really what the season has been about, is deciding who is and who isn't. And some of these guys are a little bit of surprises. Some of them aren't, but McMahon can be somebody that you build on. Rodgers is a guy we need to see it.
Yeah.
And Freeland is honestly another one where there's as many question marks there. As fun as the one season was, you want to see if this is a guy you can build your next successful rotation around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, what if the Rockies are just like fooling all of us and they're playing like their own weird version of Moneyball and we just don't know it?
Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say to that. I think they kind of are, but that they unlucked and lucked into it. It was all the timing. First of all, they unlucked into it because they created a terrible situation where they pissed off Nolan Arenado and ran him into running himself out of town. And that really just blew up any opportunity for them to be competitive around this team anymore, right? But the fact that all of this is happening now, when you do have a bunch of free agents, no bad contracts, a lot of young guys who you don't know exactly what they're going to be, you do have these lost boys, right? Where you're like, okay, there's young players. How much farm system do we need? And at what position, right? Where do we really need guys? Hint, pitching. Is the answer to that question.
Yes, absolutely. I oh my God, Drew, I've never agreed with you so much before on something. But like also like if they can manage to sign Trevor, right? Like let's say for whatever reason Trevor wants to stay here. Great, we love that. I'm not mad at a Ryan McMahon, Brendan Rodgers, Trevor Story, Josh Fuentes infield.
No.
That sounds pretty good to me.
Then DH comes to the National League, so Charlie Blackmon moves into that spot if he can get the bat back. We'll see. You may end up having to the Charlie Blackmon conversation we can kick down the road or whatever. But then you've got a slew of interesting but not overwhelming outfielders, so that may be a place where you say, okay, if we're unloading Michael Givens or CJ Cron or Carlos Estevez or any of these people that might have some value now, you're not going to get a ton for them, but you might be able to get a decent toolsy outfielder who can come and roam center field, like a guy who can't hit but can just play the hell out of center field. We've always wanted to see someone do that at Coors. They've never really had that Billy Hamilton type. He's playing for the Sox right now, not doing a whole lot out there, contributing some, but maybe the White Sox need a couple of relievers, stretch run. They're playing great. They could use a Michael Givens and a Carlos Estevez. You get back a Billy Hamilton, not because he's a part of your future, but just to see him run around Coors Field and get the sense of. But I'd rather a young player like that could be a part of your future. But those are the kinds of conversations you can have and really start to build. Because you're right. Like I think they're the key pieces here. The rotation is great, and you can rewind a bullpen in an off season in a hurry, especially when you've got pitchers. It's just that spending on the bullpen. We know how that goes.
Yeah, let's not do that again, ever again. Never. Nope. $118 million, something like that. Yeah. Nope, we're not doing that again.
No, don't do that.
But yeah, I mean,
they have reinstated Brendan Rodgers just now, 1 minute ago. Rockies announced today they have reinstated Brendan Rodgers from the 10-day injured list and have optioned Alan Trejo to AAA. So he could be playing this weekend. I mean, he should be. If he's ready to go, he's got to get right back in there. There's no reason to wait. No reason to stick him on the bench and be like, get your feet wet, kid. It's like, what, you don't want him playing against the Diamondbacks. You don't get him out there. Let's see him. Let's see him go.
Yeah. So Brendan Rodgers comes back. That Alan, whatever his name was, just kidding. Trejo went back to Albuquerque. It's okay. Then you got Kyle Freeland that's ready to come back. So then that means Chi-Chi's out, right? I'm assuming they're going to keep Austin in the rotation and Chi-Chi's going to get the boot.
And which kind of sucks for Chi-Chi because he's been pitching so well. At the same time, the bullpen needs someone who can pitch.
Yeah. I mean, why can't you use Chi-Chi as like a middle inning reliever guy that can go like 2 or 3 innings and, kind of provide that long relief in the middle?
Or even go the other, because that's what he's best suited for. But like we were talking about, with nobody else to hand the baseball to, if Herman goes 7 innings, gives up 1 run on 3 or 4 hits, and you've got a 4-1 lead in the 8th.
Let Chi-Chi finish the game.
Hand the ball to Chi-Chi Gonzalez. Let him pitch them both.
Yeah. So, things might be looking up, you guys.
It's okay, guys. The Rockies' 5th starter might be their best reliever. Things are looking up.
Real Corsi Cat said Rodgers is in the lineup tonight. So
excellent. I was just trying to find it. So that's fantastic.
Brendan Rodgers is coming back. That's
batting 6th, playing second base for your Colorado Rockies.
Can you read the lineup? Oh, wait, I just got it too. I got a notification. So
batting 1st, playing left field, Raimel Tapia. Batting 2nd, playing shortstop, Trevor Story. Batting 3rd, playing right field, Charlie Blackmon. Cleaning it up, batting 4th and playing first base, CJ Cron. Ryan McMahon will bat 5th and play 3rd base. Brendan Rodgers making his season debut at 6th in the lineup, playing second base. Garrett Hampson out there in center field. He's gotten really good at center field, by the way. We didn't talk about that more. But batting 7th, not hitting especially well, but there he is. And then Dom Nunez catching, batting 8th. Due to hit a donger tonight, by the way. A good old dinger donger brought to you by my friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. Put it down, lock it up. Do get yourself downloaded on the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app today. Do it this week, especially because it's Hammer the Overtime, so it's a lot of fun. You'll have to bet on baseball, basketball, football, and hockey, or maybe, competitive chess drafts. They got all kinds of stuff on there. It's a whole lot of fun. It makes it interesting. Put a little extra skin in the game. Win yourself some money and hammer the over. You download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. You use promo code DNVR, and you sign up to hammer the over for every 1,500 people that bet the over in a featured game. The line will decrease by a point. Yes, this means that your chance to improve the odds of the over hitting increases every time you get you or someone else to bet that over. So get your friends, family, everybody involved. It's a full team effort. Hammer the over, improve your odds of doubling your money. It's promo code DNVR at DraftKings Sportsbook. 21 or older, Colorado only. Restrictions apply. Max $25 wager, one per customer. Offer ends on May 23rd. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Rogers in the lineup tonight. That makes the game a lot more fun and interesting for Rockies. And like you said, this is one of those things that actually could have a huge impact on whether or not the Rockies need to have a soft rebuild or a long rebuild. If Rogers ain't it, you may have a longer rebuild on your hand. But like Makayla was just saying, if the future of if 2022, you're looking at Rogers, who's really established himself and looks like he might be that future all-star that he's been projected. You have a re-signed Trevor Story. You've got Ryan McMahon, who's going to solidify himself in there. You've got the core of something to build on.
Yeah. I mean, and then look at the outfield. So you've got Ryan McMahon, Trevor Story, if he stays, Brendan Rodgers, Josh Fuentes in the infield, Raimel Tapia, Garrett Hampson, maybe Zach Veen in the outfield.
Will be a little early by 22, maybe 23.
Too early?
A little bit. Brent Doyle is an interesting guy in the minors that I don't think gets talked about quite enough. He's not the exciting, again, he's not Zach Veen. He's not that guy that you get really excited about, but he could be. How
are we feeling about Sam Hilliard?
That one's tough. I have not given up on Sam Hilliard yet. He was clearly overmatched, this year. And it's tough for these guys that had no minor league year last year. Remember, there was no baseball.
No minor leagues, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, by the way. My Wi-Fi jumped out, so I thought you stopped.
But yeah, so I'm not out on Hilliard yet, but you can't have him at the big striking out in half of his at-bats. And so he's got to get it together a little bit. There's a lot of talent to like there, but I still think he's probably a fourth outfielder for his career moving forward. Probably not someone you build around or you're thinking of as a starter all the time. I think if there's another outfielder in the mix, Daza's made an interesting candidacy for himself, but can you go with Tapia and Daza, no thump in your outfield, and then you're just counting on Charlie Blackmon, who's getting older and older in right field to do the thump. So that's where you're getting thump out of McMahon, Story. Rogers will give you, look, if it clicks for him, that's part of his game. If it's like I said about Tapia, what translates from the minors translates to the majors. There's 25 home runs at the big league level in Brendan Rodgers' bat. So to have that at second base is nice. But they need another thumper in that outfield. And it's a bit before Zach Veen gets there. But you got money to spend. Is that what you spend it on?
Definitely not the bullpen.
But don't spend it on the bullpen, right? So it's spend most of your money. Re-sign Trevor Story. Go get a big stick to play right field and hope that you can DH Charlie moving forward, right?
Yeah.
And then spend little dollar amounts signing every low-level reliever that you can to rebuild the bullpen. That's a quick rebuild that could work if that's what you want us to be good next year.
Drew Creasman, we just fixed the Colorado Rockies.
Done. Boom. Sign it up. Why don't they hire us? Are they doing interviews down there right now?
Let's walk down.
The job is open.
Let's head over.
Knock on Dick's door.
It's I heard you guys were hiring. We're here.
We've got an idea. We know exactly how to solve this team. Got it fixed for you.
So maybe it's not. Talking through all of this, though, has made me feel actually a little bit better. Maybe the situation isn't as bleak as I was painting it out to be. I think this season's it's a wash. This season, you just gotta muscle through and kind of take it for what it is. Let the young guys get some more playing experience, and then next season, I think if they can retain Story and like you said,
find like rides on Story and Rogers in the scenario we just played out.
Yes, and Kyle Freeland too, honestly, because if they can keep K free, I don't know. I feel better.
The rotation of Marquez, again, we'll see what happens with Gray, but you can re-sign him. But of Marquez, Freeland, Sensatella, Gomber, really,
I'm not mad.
Even that's without John Gray. So you got to totally rework the bullpen. Obviously,
absolutely.
That goes without saying. But the rest, there's good young players here, and that's why I push back against the farm system. It's not the Rockies farm system isn't bad. It is, and they need to restock it. They need to rework that. But there's good young talent here. Just who's going to click, who's not, and who's going to stay, and who's not. So we forget that guys like Marquez are 26, Kyle Freeland's 27, John Gray's 28. They're getting up there, but they're not ancient yet.
Yeah, Real Corsy Cat asked if you could only keep one, Story or Gray. Who do you pick? Ugh.
So for me, the answer to this question is Gray.
Yeah, I agree. But I also say Gray. Yeah. Yeah, it's so much like you have to build a team around solid starting pitching. If your starting pitching sucks, it's going to be a long season. And, finding someone like John Gray, it's easier. Don't take this the wrong way.
You're correct.
It's so much easier to replace Trevor Story than it is to replace John Gray. Yeah. So obviously I would want to stick with John Gray, but I'm not saying that Trevor Story sucks and is easily replaceable. That's not at all what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying starting pitching is so valuable in this league.
Yeah. Any position player can be. Remember that phrase in Moneyball when they're talking about when Jason Giambi is gone and they're talking about replacing him. It says, no, we're going to recreate him in the aggregate. You don't replace Trevor Story with another shortstop who's just as good as Trevor Story. There's only a handful of those guys. That's not what Makayla is saying. What she's saying is that as a team offense, you can make up for the lost production from Trevor Story with two guys who come up a little bit. You've got that there. On the mound, you cannot recreate in the aggregate. You hand the baseball to one guy to start the game or out of the bullpen or whatever. And then it's just you've got to have the guy who knows how to pitch at Coors Field. And there are so
I was just going to say that. Yes. Yeah. I was going to say John Gray is a home, not a homegrown. It's not from here. Right. But he came up through the system. Right. Yeah. So he's been in this Rocky system his entire career. You cannot devalue the value of knowing how to pitch at Coors for this team. That is one of the most valuable aspects that a pitcher can possibly have for the Colorado Rockies is having service time and knowing how to pitch in Coors Field. And that is just one of the most valuable aspects that John has, is just because he's been here and he's come up through the system and he's been able to kind of figure out and adjust to Coors Field. And it takes a while to do that. You see it now with Austin, some of the things that he's struggling with now, he didn't struggle with when he played for the Cardinals. So
and it reminds me a lot of the early struggles of guys like Gray and Marquez and Sensatella, and I can see him working through it the way they were working through it. You need a couple years to do that. And I think in a couple of years, Austin Gomber could be really, really consistently very good, like we're seeing John Gray has been this year. But that's why for me, you were talking about kind of the unease of not knowing. That's the one thing I'd really love to hear them announce, is that they've extended John Gray, because that gives you your pitching rotation for a minute. And then it's all haggling over what we were just talking about. Which one of these young position guys hit and who doesn't? Then you go out into free agency and trades and look for what you don't have. And that's interesting. But
I think at this point the Rockies would be foolish not to extend Gray. The rotation now is the best that it's ever been. And I know that they've gone through a little bit of a struggle recently, but I just don't see how you can lose this rotation.
Yeah.
That scares me more than anything, honestly. That scares me more than losing Trevor Story, because
it's a return for Trevor, right? And again, I don't think you'd get a great return for John. So it's just you trade Story, you get a couple more quality pitchers. Maybe some of them end up in the bullpen. Maybe you get one bat out of the deal. Again, an outfielder we've talked about, someone with some thump out there might help. But you can turn around and rebuild quickly if you keep that starting rotation intact. If not, you start trading members of the rotation. Then we're looking at a 3, 4, 5 year long full tear down rebuild.
Yeah. But I feel better. This made me feel good.
Good. All right. Well, that's something. Let's see if Brendan Rodgers can play well and also make us feel better. And then soon Kyle Freeland can return and we'll have some good feels.
This is a great series to debut for this season.
That's right. Right? Facing TBD should be good for Brendan Rodgers.
We love that for him.
Oh, man. Now I'm nervous again. I forgot about being nervous for Brendan because he's a really good guy and he's a really talented kid. And you don't want to, see injuries derail a person's career. We talked about that earlier. You don't want to see injuries derail it. And, or the expectations thing or people going, oh, you are what you were in your first 80 at bats in the bigs. It's like, just want to see him get the opportunity to be the baseball player he's been his entire life, every other level at the big leagues. I just want to see him relax and settle into it and get to play ball a little bit. So,
yeah. Fingers crossed.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with us for this one. This was a whole lot of fun. We appreciate each and every single one of you. Make sure you're subscribed to the DNVR.com so that you don't miss out on any of the written content. Plus, you get discounts on hats, shirts, masks, a bigger beer when you come down to the DNVR bar. And you get to hang out with us in the Discord channel 24/7, chatting about anything and everything under the sun. And right now, when you sign up for the annual subscription, we'll hook you up with a free shirt from the DNVR Locker and a free holistic stick from our friends at Holistic Wellness. Check them out at holisticwellness.com. That's HOLISTIK wellness.com. We'll hook you up with that free 10 milligram stick of CBD for just signing up for the annual subscription. Then after that, you can use promo code DNVR30 with those folks to get 30% off. Again, check them out at holisticwellness.com. Absolutely fantastic products there. We do appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out with us for this show. Make sure you're following on social media at Drew Creasman, at Makayla E. Perkins, of course, at Patrick D. Lyons, and at DNVR_Rockies. You got to be on the TikTok account. Those wings that RK and Brandon were just reviewing, those looked absolutely delicious. You got to find out which popular icons of the past Makayla thinks are other popular icons of the past. Just quality stuff on the TikTok. So be a member of the DNVR family because it's one big, loving, happy family. And we appreciate each one of you for being absolutely awesome baseball fans out there. We promise to keeping absolutely Makayla Perkins and Drew Creasman in here. And until next time, we will see you at the ballpark.